Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan, and Andrew DiCiecco from InsideTheBirds.com. And the Eagles had a practice on Monday. It was a full padded practice. It was a long one, about almost 2 hours. So we'll get our observations. We'll talk about the developments from the Eagles as we get closer to the first preseason game Thursday night. I imagine Monday will be their roughest practice because Wednesday they're going to have a walkthrough before the Thursday game. So Tuesday this morning will probably be, I would imagine, a lighter practice, right, Andrew?
It will be.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be ramped down. Yeah. So it's good. They've had a couple good practices over the weekend and on Monday, and then there's a lot for us to get into. So again, light practice today on Tuesday, walkthrough Wednesday. Thursday is the preseason game. Then of course they'll be off Friday. We'll have everything covered throughout the week. Fellas, I want to start off just really quickly with the injury updates. A.J. Brown still dealing with the hamstring. He was out. Byron Young was a addition. He was out on Monday. He's an addition to the list. He had a groin injury, but the Eagles did get Ben Van Sumeren back. He was limited with the ankle. Mac McWilliams was listed as limited. And then Devontae Smith. This was cool because Devontae Smith is back in practice. And Andrew, I thought he was a highlight. I almost gave him a game ball for PhiladelphiaEagles.com, not for anything other than just kind of like being able to get open like Devontae Smith does.
I refer to him as a smooth criminal. Everything he does looks effortless. He caught a long crosser from JalenHurts. Doesn't look like he misses a beat no matter how much time he misses. He's such a reliable player and integral to the success of this offense.
Yeah, cue the Michael Jackson. He is smooth. That's what I was writing. He made a couple of nice plays, Adam, in the team drills, but it's really what really jumps out. And this is why I've thought that he might be poised for an even bigger year if this team has to throw it a little bit more, is that just his comfort and his route running, his razor sharp cuts really stand out, especially in these team drills. He's every year I feel like he just gets more and more in sync with Jalen.
Yeah, two things. So on Sunday he dominated when he started off. He got in early, and he looked like he had missed a beat, missing over a week of practice. And the thing that surprised me is we talked about the start camp about Devontae Smith's touchdown numbers. It's very surprising. Okay, without looking, I think it was maybe the 14 over the last 2 years. You wouldn't think of him as a guy who'd score a lot of touchdowns. But the thing about him, for being the Slim Reaper, is how physical he is. We've talked about that crazy catch was against Washington, maybe his rookie season or second year.
Oh, yeah.
The bomb. We went up and got it. He went on his back, maybe missed one play and came back in. The guy he's about as tough as it comes.
Yeah. Or the catch that he had against Pat Surtain as a rookie in Denver, where he took it away from him.
Corner. Against Vic's team. That's right. It was against Fangio, right?
Good stuff.
I think he's still the head coach,
Yeah. Vic was the head coach then. Yep.
21.
Yeah. So I know it's like I feel like we said it last year, maybe this year. I mean, the dynamic of the offense changed a lot last year, but I really can see at some point in his career, Devontae Smith sort of going off and having one of those 1,400 yard seasons where everything goes right. But again, they'd have to be throwing the ball a lot more for that to happen. But either way, as good of a number 1A or 2 as there is in the league. And then this is kind of funny. So Jiad Campbell was removed from the limited list. He is now a full participant. Now, if any of you two can describe for me the actual, you can tell me what the difference is in the verbiage, but when you watch practice, if you thought that there was anything limited in Jiad Campbell's usage, you'd have to explain it to me like I'm 3 years old, because he's been out there pretty much on every snap doing everything. Andrew, have you even noticed a period in teams or drill where he's not done anything?
No, I haven't seen him limited in any capacity. And you saw a little bit of that edge that he plays with. I think he's going to add a lot of juice to this defense. There is one play where he gently wrestled tight end Harrison Bryant to the ground on a short completion. I mean, you don't want somebody to kind of take away what makes them special. Obviously, it's hard for him to pull the reins back.
Yeah. So is that on Monday you're referring to, or is that earlier?
Yeah, Monday.
So now he's starting to stack days of maybe a little too much contact with the opponent.
Yeah, that's the thing is and the players will tell you, their coach very hard about this. Do not hurt your teammate.
Yep.
Like as physical as you want to be, you have to know what you're allowed to. We get he's a rookie, but he can't go over the line.
Right.
You gotta be careful with that stuff because I've seen it traveling from camp to camp over the years. I've seen guys get hurt. It's a shame when it happens and nobody tries to hurt anyone, but sometimes your momentum takes you. You just got to be careful.
Yeah, and I feel like in the times that Campbell has done it, Andrew, has he been admonished loudly for it? Because it's not been purposeful or intentional. There was a cornerback whose name I can't remember right now, a couple of days ago, who did make a tackle and got admonished pretty loudly for it. They were screaming at him like, what the F are you doing here? It was on Goddard, I think, right? And he got admonished for it because it was less of an accident or more like the guy got caught in the moment and made a tackle, and you can't do that when you're not tackling.
Well, for Campbell, it never looks intentional. To your point there, Geoff, it always looks like he's almost apologetic or trying to help them up after the play. He just goes 100 miles an hour, obviously with intent, but it's never it doesn't seem to me that he's trying to do that purposefully.
Right, and that's what they tell rookies. If you're going to make a mistake, do it at 100 miles per hour. And like you said, just try not to hurt your teammate. Yes, he did hurt Van Sumeren a couple of days ago, put him out. Van Sumeren limped off, but Van Sumeren's back, so all is good. As long as you don't do it to the quarterback, you're really then not.
Oh, you got to. You'll be. You know what? You either get yelled at, or some coaches I've seen it they throw the guy out of practice.
Absolutely,
that will not be tolerated. There's a reason why he's wearing a red jersey.
Yeah.
Don't touch the quarterback. Vic talked about it when he was talking about on his press conference on Monday. That there's some things you just can't do.
100%. All right, let's get through practice. Now, this practice was it was interesting because they did a lot of backed up drills on Monday, Andrew, and you've been to every single one. Was this the most backed up? When I say backed up, the offense will start at the 0, at the 3, at the 5, and then it'll be situational, or it'll be move it as much as you can move it. But it's obviously designed for the offense to be uncomfortable. Was this the first time this year, Andrew, that you had seen that much?
Yeah, that was the first occasion that I saw that. And it was also the first occasion, if you remember, Geoff, there was a situational drill where each unit got a chance to try and move the football. They got one opportunity. I think for the first team, it was offsides. Second team, Thomas Booker storms through the middle to break up a pass, get a hand up. And then the third team, Dorian Thompson-Robinson sorted wide of wide receiver Ife Daye. So that was interesting too, because you see the urgency.
Yeah, Adam, you've never seen anything so funny as a bunch of first-team offensive guys coming off the field because they drew an offsides and never actually had to run the play. Because the situation is you're backed up, but it's like I think it was like 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4 or something like that. They drew the offsides. They got the first down. Nobody. So like Dickerson's walking off the field with a big smile on his face. Mailata's like clapping hands with Lane Johnson. Anytime you can get through a drill in camp and you don't need to contact anybody because you drew an offsides, and then you get to come right.
It's a win for you.
Yeah, you win. It's a hell of a win. Yeah,
it's a free down. Yeah, it's a free play for you. Yeah, so you like that. So. It's interesting just seeing, looking at other reporters who are at other camps, like you see, like one day the Bears had a terrible practice. Ben Johnson, maybe, I don't know exactly what he did, but it was bad and he was not happy. Andrew, and I don't know if you two have seen this. I haven't seen it yet in the practices I've been to. Like I've mentioned this before in 2022 at Cleveland in Berea, where Gainwell got chucked out. Oh, but he got taken, like, he told Jamal Singham to get him off the field. But I haven't seen – these practices are pretty crisp, guys. I don't see – they're faster. There's no wasted time, which really bothers me at some other camps. Like, it's like station to station. And watch Sirianni, by the way. That's what he does as a CEO head coach. We haven't really talked about this much, but he goes from he observes, he folds his hands, he'll get a guy's ear. So, yeah, there's some stuff going on here.
Very efficient. Yeah, that's the word that I would use for it. No wasted time, fast pace, and they get a lot accomplished.
Yeah, it surprises me just from a long time perspective. They structure their camp. Every coach does this differently, but I remember in the Andy Reid era, you got used to a sequence, which was warm-ups, right, and then position drills. The wide receivers with the wide receivers, running backs. I still do that, but then it would go to from positional drills to offensive drills, defensive drills, and then they would come together for 7-on-7s and then team. And it almost never deviated from that. But in Nick Sirianni's camp, they could start They can go just straight from warm-ups, kick the ball off like they did on Sunday, right? And then get right into team drills. And it's like, whoa, you guys, that's it? You're just going straight to 11-on-11s? We're not doing 7? And then they'll break. And then after that, they'll get and do some individual stuff. So they have there's a method to their madness. I haven't figured out exactly what it is, but they are definitely structured differently than the way I remember it under Andy.
Well, it forces, in my opinion, it forces players to not become comfortable or used to a certain regimen. You have to be prepared for everything. And even today, Geoff, they did the individuals, position drills. Then they went to one-on-ones, wide receivers, DBs, offensive line, defensive line. Then they went to full team. So I like the variation there, and I think it keeps a lot of folks on their toes.
Yeah, on Sunday, they went, looking at my clock, it was the first 25 were individual drills. Then they did some 7-on-7. Then they did some team. Then they went to specials. Then they went back to whatever they did that they were doing earlier. So, but it varies by camp. You know, it varies by camp. They don't all do that. It's what you think you need. And Nick has tweaked it since 21. He's tweaked it over the years about how he wants it done.
Definitely. I mean, just the fact that practice on Monday was almost 2 hours alone was. I was just going to say from the early camps.
I remember. I called you, like, let's say they had to practice at 1 o'clock. I don't know, whatever. In year one, they weren't all at 10 o'clock. You said, why you call me? I said, because practice over. You're like, what are you talking about? I said, dude, I think it was 43 minutes.
Yeah. I thought they were still doing press conferences at that point. I didn't even know they had started practicing.
What's that?
I said, I didn't even realize they had started practicing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think they might have had one like 30 some odd minutes. Yeah, but sports science or whatever.
Yeah. So in general, we'll get into some of the positions in a second. I did think, Andrew, I'm curious on your thought for this practice on Monday. I thought the offense bounced back. I thought, especially for being backed up a lot and having the defense coming at you, I just thought the offense looked more crisper and more fluid than in the past few days.
Yeah, I thought Hurts was in a really good rhythm delivering the football. A lot of mid-range throws for him. McKee had some really pinpoint accurate passes today, but they were keeping the defense sort of reeling. I can remember we talked about the Devontae Smith crossing route. There's another one to Kylan Granson where he found the soft spot in the zone. Jalen delivers him the football. I think it was in front of maybe Smile Mondon and Reed Blankenship. And just some, touch and accuracy, and he kept the offense on schedule today for Monday.
Yeah, which is good to see. And that's part of what you're going to see at camp. You're going to see one side of the ball dominate than the other. And, the defense had gotten a couple of really good days in a row. So it's nice to see the offense bounce back. Let's talk about the running back position here. Barkley got a nice heavy workload over the weekend. Got a little bit more of a workload again on Monday, not as much as probably the weekend. But where are we looking at? To me, because right now, Will Shipley is the more versatile back as opposed to Dylan, but Dylan's getting his fair share of carries too. I mean, I think I said this to Adam in the pod that dropped Monday, if they had to make the 53 right now, it looks like all three make it, and that's your three running backs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to
there was never a chance Dylan was going to get cut. It's just
as long as his neck was all right.
Oh unless he was healthy, unless he wasn't healthy.
Right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. It's just the thing with him is though, and he looks fine. I've watched him quite a bit. He looks fine. Shipley's just more explosive. I understand, like that from a scouting standpoint. There's a real question about how much Shipley can handle. Short. So he has a weird body. Like if you looked at his weight, you go, "Oh, he should be fine," but he's not because it's the way he's built. One of the things that I've learned through 27 years is the scouting people look at body types different than the media and the public does. They look at body type, shape. Not so much weight, it's how you're built. Mm-hmm. Where's your weight? Is it lower body or upper body? Is it both? Is it thighs? Is it calves? Is it deltoids? Where are you built? And that's the thing with Shipley. He's small on his backside. That matters when you talk about volume carries.
But maybe that also is why he can be a little juicier than, say, Quadzilla, who has the 200, who's got 200 of his 200 whatever pounds just in his quads alone. Talking about A.J. Dillon. I mean, he's a big dude with those.
You can't miss that, by the way. It's impossible to miss that.
And I will say, and again, this is just a note on practice squad guys. Montrell Harris has been out, right? So I thought
Montreal Johnson.
Montreal Johnson. I thought Shondaric Powell has shown his juice that he obviously has from his size, Andrew. But I mean, he's made a couple of nice cutback runs and scampered through some holes.
Yeah, he has, and it wasn't just today. It wasn't just Monday. There were other days last week that I thought, a stretch run play, you see his explosiveness. I actually think, despite being 5'7", 183 pounds, he also holds up relatively well in pass pro. He's a stronger running back, more than you would think for his size. He's an interesting player because he can also return kicks, and he has really good speed. Very productive college player. I can't wait to see what he can do in the preseason.
We thought he might be, by the way, we thought he might be one of those training camp darlings, as we call them, because of the speed and because you don't tackle a running back to the ground. So there have been a few runs by him, by even JalenHurts, where they called it down, but it's not. Like he could have, or the opposite, where he just speeds right past the guy because he can't really be hit.
Yeah, he is built well. The thing is that now he is, depending who's measuring him, he might be under 5'7", but he's well built. He's more, he's a change-up. He's the kind of guy, theoretically, who'll be in a practice squad.
Yeah.
It's hard to find it because you have to find why would you keep him? Well, if he's 3 great preseason games, you don't want to risk it. And you're like, wow, we found some, we can't risk it. Then you keep him. But the thing is, with Montreal Johnson out, he's coming on here. He can make it interesting. And his vertical was really good at the pro day. So it was over 40. Which is really, really good. So there's something there with this kid, no doubt.
Yeah. So speaking of the training camp darling that we didn't see coming probably was Elijah Cooks, who continues to make catches. I know he beat Adoree Jackson a couple of times on Monday. He's clearly making more plays and more plays consistently than Johnny Wilson, maybe even Ainias Smith, although Ainias is not underperforming, but clearly Cooks is having a good camp. But Andrew, I just don't know that we know this. It's not always a meritocracy. Like if you're not a certain draft level, if you're not expected, like you're hoping to make the practice squad. I don't know if Cooks, no matter what he does, can crack this top 4. I won't rule it out, but what are your thoughts?
Well, in order for him to be able to do that, special teams obviously plays a big part of it. And he's only played 42 snaps over 11 games during his time with the Jacksonville Jaguars. What I like about Cooks is that he does a nice job using his body for positioning, shielding defensive backs, using his basketball background in contested catch situations. Doesn't separate as well as maybe you'd like. Kind of reminds me of Joseph Nagata in that kind of way from last summer. But he's made more often than not, he's made the plays when they've come to him, and he has made more plays this summer for what it's worth than Johnny Wilson.
So, Adam, let's look at the picture here. It's always about the numbers, right? Your number ones and two. You got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Jahan Dotson as top 3 right there.
Yep, that's
I feel like at this point, Ainias Smith is playing himself on to the 53. Plus, he can give you some return ability, but it's more that
maybe he had a drop on an opportunity. JalenHurts during team period. It just he hasn't made a ton of plays during team periods. And one-on-ones, he's done a really nice job separating, usually matched up against Cooper DeJean, but he hasn't really made any sort of a dent in terms of his opportunities in team period.
Yeah, he is. When he plays the Z position, that's just – and we were talking about a Monday show. They reduce him a little bit. He's just not explosive like that. There's a certain way you need to use him to get the most out of him because he's not going to win on his own. He's got to be schemed open. But getting back to Cooks, whether he was at Nevada and then he transferred to San Jose State for 1 year, the word from a scouting standpoint, from looking at my notes, is that he was a late separator. Like he wouldn't get a lot, but he would use his body really well, and then he'd run after the catch. There's definitely something there with him. He definitely runs better. It's not even close between him and Johnny Wilson.
He absolutely runs better. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew made the point. It's going to come down to special teams. That number 4 job is completely open, and it's an outside job. It's going to be the backup X receiver. They have to figure out who the backup Z will be. That'll. Well, I'm sorry, it's Dotson. Dotson would be the backup Z. What am I talking about? But the backup X. Not that Dotson can't play it, but you want a bigger body. You really do. You need a bigger body.
I mean, they don't even play Dotson. Andrew and I were talking about this. I mean, they reduce his splits so much, and every once in a while you'll see him line up wide, and then they'll run it. So they clearly don't feel like Dotson is a guy who's going to win consistently from the outside. I know I can't wait for the commenters to say, "Well, what about the pass he caught in the Super Bowl? That was from the outside." Yeah, okay, great, that was one. That's nice, but he consistently lines up in a reduced split. So they clearly are telling you that they don't think he can line up outside and win consistently. But neither can Johnny Wilson, who we've seen at camp. Johnny Wilson runs with the twos. He gets the ball thrown his way every once in a while, but he doesn't play to his size. He seems to catch the ball only when he's wide open in the middle of a zone. Like, if we're talking about this receiver picture here, not only is there not a clear number 4, but usually you keep 5. And I don't know if there's a clear 4 or 5 at this point. And that brings up the depth concerns that you might have.
Andrew, Avery Williams. I mean, I know he's.
You mean the up back on special teams?
I saw that. What are your thoughts of him? Because I'm not seeing it so far.
Well, I haven't seen him offensively at all, but as a return man, he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities either, Adam. He seems to me like he's a core coverage guy. I was taking note of the first team kickoff group, and he was on it on multiple occasions. He's done that with Atlanta. I don't know. It's sort of a mystery. NickSirianni seemed bullish on him at the owners' meetings, and I haven't really seen it. I think they would probably love for NolanSmith to be able to step up as a punt returner in the preseason, but there's no clear-cut favorite, in my opinion, for the return job.
Geoff, on that contract for Avery Williams, which you got 1.225 million, 400 grand is fully guaranteed of that. That's not a lot. That's not going to keep him on the roster. He's going to have to perform. Yeah. But what Andrew just brought up, that was what we were excited about. Now I know it's early. We're not there yet. We're not even halfway through training camp yet. But and we know he was hurt during OTAs. He was dealing with whatever, lower body injury or something. But the bottom line is, clock's ticking here. He needs to show up.
Certainly. And again, it's about him, but it's also about the position where, who's going to be your punt returner, who's going to be your kick returner, and who is going to round out your depth at wide receiver. All lots of questions right now. Do you think Will Shipley could still be the kick returner and occupy? I think he could. Yeah. I just can't imagine that the team wants Cooper DeJean again to be the punt returner. So they got to figure out a way to get somebody in there who they also want to have on the 53.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Geoff, because there's a lot of young wide receivers that are obviously long shots and probably practice squad bound. Taylor Morin from Wake Forest, Darius Cooper, Giles Jackson, they've all repped there, but their chances of making the roster are pretty slim. I think it's really between Avery Williams and NolanSmith for punt return. Will, I think, can do the kick return just fine.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue to monitor that. I mean, wide receiver depth, we said, was a little bit of a concern going into camp, and it remains one now. Morin did have a touchdown running with the threes in that red zone drill. And then Giles Jackson on Monday probably had the most highlight reel play of the day. He caught a bomb from Dorian Thompson-Robinson about 50 yards, would have been a touchdown. And he had to adjust because the pass, even though he beat who did he beat? He beat Perry Nickerson. The ball was thrown to the inside instead of leaning him to the outside. So we had to make a nice over-the-shoulder catch with an adjustment on Andrew. So it was a really nice play by Giles Jackson. But, I can't see Giles Jackson making this 53 out of camp either.
One thing, Darius Cooper, I'll say this, I've watched him quite a bit because I like – because of the Eagles' history of undrafted free agents making it, right? It's really going back to Corey Clement. Kind of learned my lesson. Just don't discount a guy because he's an undrafted free agent not making the team. And we've talked about this. This is a wonderful opportunity for a guy to come out of nowhere. I'm sure he's not going to make the team, reasonably sure on it. But Darius Cooper is built better than Avery Williams, Taylor Morin, NolanSmith, Giles Jackson. He's a kid out of Tarleton State. He's built really well. He's an interesting player. He'd be better for a practice squad, but there is something there. There's something there.
Yeah, believe me, if there's anyone who doesn't discredit undrafted free agents, it's me, because I know I've seen a lot of these guys play at the collegiate level. It's just trying to find ways where they're going to be able to realistically fit in the equation. That's where the preseason games obviously come into play.
There you go. Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's go over to defense. Unless there was anything else. Oh, offensively, I did want to get into the offensive line real quick, just to give you a few observations. The whole Kenyon Green thing to me it is what it is. It's they acquired
he puked today. Yeah,
he puked at practice on Monday, and that is after Thomas Booker worked him pretty well. And I even thought JalenCarter. Now you can say, of course, well, JalenCarter is way better, and he is. But JalenCarter looked to me like he was going at half speed and still got the best of Kenyon. Kenyon's looked like his feet were in quicksand. Like, it just, maybe he was sick because he did puke, or maybe he just wasn't feeling well. But that's sort of the microcosm of not just his career, but also his short Eagles tenure here, where he just does nothing to stand out.
Right. I haven't been overly impressed with what I've seen. He's been getting second team work as of the last few days at left guard. He hasn't maximized his opportunity. And obviously today he left practice early, so it's not great. His outlook hasn't been great through 9 practices.
Now, on the flip side, one of the rookie, I think the 2 rookie linemen that stand out have been Miles Hinton and Drew Kendall. And I watched the one-on-ones, and I thought Kendall was really good. He was going up against so they did it this day. They did consecutive snaps. You go against a guy, then you go against a guy again. And it was him versus Gabe Hall. And his combination of hand usage and footwork was really good. He was able to punch and then anchor. He did not, on 2 consecutive snaps, he stonewalled Gabe Hall, who's a pretty good athlete. I'm not trying to make Gabe Hall out to be JalenCarter, but he's a good athlete. And Kendall won on technique and fundamentals more than like athleticism or strength or power. He just had a plan for how to stop Gabe Hall and executed it twice, even though on the second rush, Gabe tried a little bit of a different move and Kendall was still there. So I thought that was really good development for Kendall.
It's interesting. You mentioned footwork, and talking to Drew Kendall a couple of days ago after practice, he mentioned that was probably the most, I guess it was the biggest takeaway from Jeff Stoutland thus far, is honing in on the footwork. And you can definitely see it when he's out there. It is noticeable.
Yeah. And Hinton's been pretty decent, I would say, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he got his first second team reps through camp to this point. So
let's take an overall look. We know the starting 5 are, because Steen right now is uncontested right guard. So if you're talking about the first few guys off the bench, you would think Lamb right now is running second team left tackle.
He's absolutely the swing.
Yeah. Or, we talked about maybe you'd want to play Matt Pryor at right tackle and keep Kendall Lamb at left tackle. We'll see.
And Pryor was at right on Monday, but to me, Pryor will be the first guard off the bench. I think that because a couple things. Keegan's certainly not that guy yet. Kenyon Green is not that guy. Kendall's only a center. Now, and Darian Kennard, I know he could play right tackle, right guard, but Kendall Lamb has started games in the National Football League at right and left tackle, and Hinton's not ready yet. But prior to me is very valuable. You know what's interesting? If you go back and look, when he started, he in preseason in 21, I was doing some research on playing time for preseason. Pryor played guard in 2021 here in the preseason.
Yep, I remember that. By the way, he
played over 1,000 snaps last season for the Bears at right guard.
Amazing.
Wow. 1,000.
Over 1,000, yeah.
You'd have to say, I gotta give him credit. On Monday, he turned in the block of the practice. He had he was at right tackle, but he must have been pulling to the left side. Or a trap or whatever it was, but there was a blitzer. I don't think we were able to catch the number, but he put it right into the guy's midsection. I think the guy tried to leave his feet, and Pryor just drove right into his midsection and knocked him on his ass, which you don't see a whole lot of even in pads in the practice. So that was a good block by him. But yeah, if you're looking at backups, you've got. I don't know if I would expose Hinton to waivers. I know we always say that.
No, there's no chance he's getting. There's zero chance he's getting.
So he's making it. Kendall's going to make it. Yeah. Pryor, Lamb. That's 4 right there. So you're starting 5. Those 4 is 9, and then you got to decide: are you taking Keegan? Are you taking Kenyon Green? Are you
Kennard?
What's that?
I think it'll be Kennard, at least right now.
Or Kennard, yeah. I was going to throw that in there too. So, or do you go real heavy, which they've done in the past? So we'll see what they do there. Move over to defense. Jiad Campbell continues to, like I said, continues to play pretty much every snap. With Bond out and with Nakobe Dean out, you're seeing a lot of Jiad Campbell, Trotter, and Smile Mondin. Adam and I talked about this the other day, Andrew, that we're not trying to overreact, but it certainly feels like the Eagles are probably in as good of shape at inside linebacker from a know-how and athleticism standpoint, a don't embarrass the franchise standpoint, like 6 or 7 years ago, circa. Probably since I've covered the team, going back to like maybe once they started moving on from Trotter and Trotter Sr.
Well, it's a group that has a very diverse skill set, and they all have different strengths. it's funny because you have a veteran like Zach Bond, who's at 28 years old, the oldest projected starter on defense. And you have some athletic players there as well, led by Jiad Campbell. And, long gone are the days where it was the patchwork approach, the 1 year prove it deal signings, the late round picks like a Moses Foku or what have you. And they've really invested into the position, and you're seeing it. They're setting it up for the foreseeable future to have, sustained success.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to see Adam. We talked about on the last pod, Adam's declaration a couple of years ago, 2022, that the Eagles will not embarrass themselves with their linebacker play, and they didn't. TJ Edwards played well.
Right, the fans won't be. Right, the fans won't be embarrassed.
That's what I mean. Yes, the fans will not be embarrassed by the Eagles play.
I promise you. I promise you. I'm telling you, they're not going to be embarrassed. Look, TJ. I think it was. You know what, Geoff? It's funny. It was your point that you had the spring. You had heard that he'd really been working on his coverage ability. Well, that showed up because he was really bad in coverage when he first got there. Yeah, I think you had the note. Did he lose weight or something?
He lost a little weight to be a little rangier. And like you say, losing weight doesn't make you a better anything, but it did help him to get to where he wanted to be with the know-how that he was getting. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, look, Zach Bond being a superstar in the making, being a first-team All-Pro, which is crazy. Trot Jr., by the way, and he's done nothing to not start week 1 for Nakobe. Now, Campbell's playing the Will, Trotter's playing the Mike. So that they have to figure out kind of what that's going to look like. But my point is this. Campbell's coming on, he looks great. Trotter's more instinctive. Campbell's relatively new to the position. Mm-hmm. Typically, if the first round's ready, he doesn't sit. You just don't. The first rounder plays and the fifth rounder wouldn't play. But it's not that easy with this thing because Trotter's done nothing so far not to play early on. So this one is something to watch as we go along here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. True or false, fellas? Josh Uche having a good camp is, well, I'll say this, not true or false. Good or bad, Josh Uche having a good camp for the Eagles pass rush. What does that say about the state of the Eagles pass rush, Andrew?
I mean, he's had some moments. I just think that's kind of what goes with training camp. You learn about players, and they were probably hoping to have him experience a resurgence, and he's had some good moments. They really need him to be, a critical depth piece. So I think that's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's good for the Eagles. Or let me put this phrase it differently. It's good for Josh Uche, who has not done anything in 3 years, to showcase that he's still, as Greg Cosell said, there's something in there, and he's showing it in this camp. But at some point, maybe this time next week when we're all potting after the preseason game, we're gonna have to say, hey, you know what? The Eagles pass rush is starting to show up as a unit here, not just the Uche flashes, because so far it really hasn't been like that.
I mean, think about it, right?
Ojulari hasn't done a whole lot in his opportunities, but then again, Uche has. So I don't know that it says anything other than he's really trying to make the most of this opportunity.
Yeah, with Uche, the past 2 years have been a disaster. I mean, let's call it like it is. He's had one productive year, 22. He's phenomenal. With 11.5 sacks. Pressure rate was really high. And then he just kind of fell off. And New England didn't want him. He got traded to Kansas City. He couldn't get on the field because he played a non-man front in New England, and the Chiefs run a 43, so it was a bad fit. Now he's back in a non-man front. He looks good, by the way. He's clearly the 3 as of now. Now, if Ojulari shows up and Uche doesn't in the preseason, could change. Next week, it could change. We're just telling you where we're at here. Uche looks better. There's no question. Like the first 3 days of camp, it was all Ojulari. And now Uche is taking the lead here. We'll see where this goes.
Absolutely. Felix Hunt was owned by Jordan Mailata, I meant to say, on the one-on-one drills. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I was actually more impressed with Mailata, who's really come a long way in these one-on-one drills because, his technique was always – he's always a big dude who was a great athlete, but now the technique and the footwork is really coming along as he gets up. But he gave Felix Hunt a lot of issues in the one-on-one drills. So we'll monitor this. We'll keep talking about the pass rush and the state of it as practices go along. All right. So at corner, obviously all the attention on Keely Ringo versus Adoree Jackson. Andrew, has Eli Ricks said, hold on, I'm entering the conversation here because he's had some nice practices.
I don't know if we're quite to that point. But Vic said, yeah, he can this morning or Monday morning when he spoke, enter the conversation, but he has to be a little bit more consistent day to day. He's had the last couple of practices a lot of pass breakups against Elijah Cooks. Has been kind of must watch. Two big framed players fighting for the football, using their body to their advantage, and he's gotten the better of Cooks in those matchups, and he's playing with a lot more confidence. I wrote a story about him on InsideTheBirds.com. Now this is his second year in the defense. He's sort of playing a lot faster and more aggressive, and he's trying to be more physical. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He has a wiry build, but he's trying to, you could see it with receivers, but also in the running game as well. Try to throw his body in there to make some plays.
The question would be, is there room for him? You typically keep about 5 corners, right?
I think he'll be on the team.
And specials really counts, and that's going to help him.
Right. Well, are you saying that, Andrew, thinking that both Jackson and Ringo make it no matter what, or that only one of those two are going to make it?
I think in general, regardless, that they've proven they kept 6 last year. Ricks was on the roster last year as the 6th, and he didn't really play any special teams. He played about 51 snaps over 7 games. They like him as a coverage player, and he's a developmental type of guy. Eventually, they're going to have to start paying their defensive players, and you can't necessarily go heavy and throw out a lot of money for depth pieces, and he kind of gives you a cost-effective depth. He's a 23-year-old corner who can cover a little bit. I mean, at the NFL level, those players come at a premium.
But now Ricks didn't play because we talked last year that the staff didn't like him at all. They buried him as soon as they got him. And that's why but when he plays, he's going to play on special teams. That's most likely if he makes it. It's going to be hard. He just doesn't run well enough. But the thing that I loved about him 2 years ago, he did everything they asked, right? The former staff. All things that he probably didn't think he'd have to do. He did it because they need him to do it. That matters, man. That's when you accept, when you play for Nick Saban, that has something to do with it, that you do your job. But Ricks has got some value in this league. He has some value. Ideally, he's a 4th corner, but that's okay. That'd be fine for him.
So I guess you can keep him without going over 6, right? You would keep DeJean, you would keep Mitchell, you would keep.
DeJean's not a corner though. They don't count him as a corner.
Yeah, but a 6 is a combination of nickels and outsides. They're not going to keep 6 outside corners. I'm talking about just in general,
Ringo,
corner and nickels.
Dean, Mitchell, Mac McWilliams, right. Maybe Adoree Jackson or whoever, and Eli Ricks.
Yeah, I guess that could work. Now, they would have to go light maybe somewhere else, but they could do that because I think last year they went a little lighter at DT than they had in the past. So we'll see how the numbers work their way out there. All right. Anything else on defense that jumped out to you, Andrew?
Smile Mondon is a physical player, despite what his frame might suggest at 6'2", 225 pounds. He's rangy. He's sideline to sideline type of speed, but he made a nice play attacking downhill and tagging Saquon Barkley on a running play. And I think that really showcases his physicality that he brings. He's caught my eye the last few practices.
All right. And obviously we're seeing Cooper DeJean also, by the way, in a lot of base. I mean, I think the whole outside corner and base thing is done. I mean, he's just basically playing safety now in base and then nickel in nickel.
Yeah.
You haven't seen any outside corner, have you?
No outside this summer. I also think we should outline Quinyon Mitchell peeling off his receiver and making a nice play to intercept Tanner McKee when it was the second team offense versus the starters.
Yeah.
This is a guy who didn't have any interceptions in the regular season a year ago, and he's made a conscious effort, if you listen to what he had to say, about trying to be able to secure those this year. He's had 2 this summer, and that really showcased his instincts and ability to make a play on the ball.
So before we get out of here, this is the knock from a scouting standpoint. He fought the ball at Toledo. That was the one thing. You can say lack of ball production, but there's a reason. You always have to have context. We give context on the show. From a scouting standpoint, the tape showed, because we talked to scouts who had that area, he'd fight the football. That's why he wasn't a receiver, right? He just was not natural at it. But as Andrew just said, he's working at it. It's starting to show. And it's anticipation. It's route recognition. But when you have it, it's securing it and feeling comfortable with it. Like you have, it's like anything you do in sports. The more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. This is really the next evolution because everything else is elite.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to be better with the ball. That's all.
I wonder how much, because I like these concentration drills they're doing where you get 3 footballs with color-coded footballs thrown at you, and you have to catch the one of the color that they tell you, which I've seen this in baseball with hitting, where you throw 3 balls up and you tell them to hit the specific one, right? Where it helps you isolate the one thing and get your hands on it as fast as possible. I think they're doing that with all the corners, right, Andrew? That drill with the different colored footballs. Yeah. So, and because a couple of them have mentioned how much that has helped, like eye-hand coordination and concentration. So if it's working, that's great. Good for them. Awesome. All right. Before we get out of here, just a little bit of a what to expect with starters playing in the preseason. We've talked about this. Defensive players who are potential starters are absolutely going to have to play in the first preseason game, because right now Vic even said he needed evaluation on Monday. He had a press conference and he needs to see certain guys.
Yes. By the way, last year there was a change. So Becton, I'm going to look at both sides. I went back to I went back and researched this. So Nick has kind of changed it over the years. This is what you were talking about, Geoff.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Becton played on offense in the first game. Some starters played on defense in the first game. Game 2, all backups on offense. Some starters on defense. Bond was one of them. Now, I think with Bond, it wasn't that they didn't know he was going to start. They needed to see him in game just in games. And then game 3, none of the starters played. In 2023, it was all backups. As a matter of fact, the joint practice with Cleveland here in Philly. So if you have joints, you typically don't need to play starters.
Right.
We'll have more on this in the next show. I just wanted to bring that up because early in Nick's career, man, he was mixing and matching starters some weeks, some not. It just depended on what they felt they needed to see.
Yeah. I remember very clearly Nick saying 2 years ago that those practices against the Browns were so intense and got so many reps in that he felt like you said, that they didn't need any time in that preseason game. So, but this is a physical situation. Yeah. I mean, first of all, there's no joint practice with the Bengals. And then secondly, there are so many jobs up for grabs. Vic even said it at the press conference. I need to see these guys play reps. So
that's it. You're right. That's why you should do it. And with Cleveland, because I remember talking to the Browns, they felt like the Eagles took it to them in Berea the year before. And I would say that's true of being there. And the former NFL head coach I ran into there said the same thing. He said the Eagles beat the hell out of them. And the Browns didn't forget it because they brought it. They actually did some planning for that. Typically, you don't. You're running certain drills and plays. You let the opponent, the team, the Eagles, hey, this is what we want to do. They brought a little something because Eagles kicked their ass there. That's probably one of the times you could see the Eagles had something special going on. Usually you don't see that. Usually you can't tell that much, but the Eagles kicked their ass in 22 in training camp.
Very good. All right. So that's a little bit of a preview of what to perhaps expect when the Eagles play the Bengals Thursday night, but we'll have more on that later this week. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. For Andrew DiCiecco and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for flying with us inside the Birds.